Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Group Dynamics as a Pathway to Changing Culture and Developing Leaders. Today's session is part of a webinar series hosted by Human Synergistics. As a quick reminder, today's webinar will be recorded, and we will make the recording and PowerPoint deck available in the coming days. We also encourage you to send through any questions using the GoToWebinar panel, the question and answer feature. We'll be able to address those questions towards the end of our session. Now, before we start, I want to mention a few of our tools that will be featured in today's presentation. You can move to the next slide. Great. So today we'll be discussing our Group Styles Inventory, or GSI. This is an assessment that is completed by teams to understand their group styles and identify practical strategies for enhancing their effectiveness. And this is used with the circumbox that you see on the right-hand side of the screen to be able to look at those constructive versus passive defensive or aggressive defensive styles that are playing out within the team or group as they work through a problem together. We'll also be sharing the project planning situation that helps to strengthen general planning proficiencies and competencies. And this is part of our business series, and it provides more how-to knowledge for teams that they need to tackle common yet demanding business problems and situations with expertise and competence. At the same time, they also strengthen the skills and behaviors teams need to solve problems and make decisions effectively and efficiently. Now, as we get started, I'll introduce myself. I am Allison Hurtado. I am your moderator today, as well as the Director of Culture and Leadership here at Human Synergistics. I'm so excited to be joined by Marcela Hurtado and José Eusebio López of Blue Sector Group. Blue Sector Group is a consulting firm based in Mexico, specializing in performance improvement through the development of one's constructive style. I've had the honor of knowing Marcela and Jose for about 10 years now. I can't believe that time goes way too fast, but it's been such a pleasure getting to know them and work with them and collaborate on many projects over that time. I've also even had the opportunity to spend some time with them in Mexico City and can vouch that they are excellent tour guides. So let me share a little bit of background on both of them before I hand it over. So Marcela is the project director at Blue Sector Group. She's accredited in various assessments from Human Synergistics and has participated in the constructive styles development programs in culture, leadership, management teams, and individuals within many organizations across various sizes and industries. Jose heads Blue Sector Group, and he has headed numerous transformation projects as well across many organizations, and is accredited in the Human Synergistics Integrated Diagnostic System. Jose has assisted more than 200 executives in strengthening their constructive impact and increasing their effectiveness and satisfaction. You can also see one of their case studies featured in our book, Creating Constructive Cultures. So be sure to check out chapter 6. Now let's get to the presentation. Marcela, I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Allison. Bienvenidos todos y gracias por estar aquí. We're very excited to have this webinar to share with you, and I would like to start with who we are, what we do, and the opportunities and challenges that we are encountering. First, I would like to say that Blue Sector, it's a consulting firm based in Mexico, founded 12 years ago, and we help the different companies to improve organizational culture with the purpose of improving performance. We represent global firms like Human Synergistics and also the Pacific Institute. And this way we have integrated knowledge, tools, and methodologies that allow us to develop the constructive styles and you can realize that even our name, the name of our company, Blue Sector, refers to the blue sector of the circumplex because we're interested in helping clients develop the constructive styles. Throughout the time, we have found in the Latin American companies a lot of opportunities to develop not only organizational culture, but work with leadership, teams, and individuals as well. For us, it's key to add the assessment tools because that's the way we can make the intangible tangible. And in a way, also, we look to educate people on how their behaviors come from their beliefs and they impact performance. So having a group of tools that can make people within the organization understand the impact of their styles and how this uh, has behavior into the results, even the financial resource becomes very important. So I would like to talk about our process of securing a project, a client project before. We used to have this full-blown OCI, OEI approach with large-scale projects. However, uh, this kind of projects took a longer time to move forward and many decision makers were involved. As you know, working with the culture of an organization can be an 18 to 24 month period, and there's a lot of budget time involved. So it's not only the people from OD or HR, but also even the CEO or the CFO when they see the amount of budget that needs to be allocated. So this made the selling process and the approval process of the project very long. And we had some communication challenges and roadblocks because sometimes they weren't able to have all the budget or they were not willing to allocate all the time and get the whole company involved. So we had to do something creative to start working with the different companies. And that's where the after of our new process comes and how we pivoted to still make profit of these opportunities. And that pivot was to start with group dynamics. This was important because it meant shorter onboarding process, fewer decision makers involved. This is because we could work with specifically a team of an area or maybe the executive team. So it wasn't necessary to involve the whole organization at the beginning. And having the specific teams within the organization involved also came with specific goals or requirements that they needed to attend. And the way we see it is that's an excellent entry point to work with different aspects of cultures and performance involved. Another thing that I would like to share with you that was relevant to this new process that we were seeing within the organizations is that even though we started a few months prior to the pandemic, when the pandemic arrived, most organizational, like culture organizational projects got paused or even stalled. We didn't know, I think we don't know yet, when will the pandemic stop. And then there were other issues like the economic situation or the war and high levels of uncertainty. So by working only or specifically at the beginning with the group dynamics and teams, it made it safer for the organization to, instead of committing to an 18 to 24 month project, they could commit to a 2-month project and start seeing results. And that was crucial for our business to move on during uncertain times. And I would like to talk about certain considerations about teams that make it so interesting for us to work with them. First of all, is that teams are not islands. Teams are part of a system. And it's interesting that individuals make part of the team and teams shape individuals, but at the same time, teams also shape the culture of the organization. And the way we see it is that teams are the nexus of where culture, of where they meet the culture. And this is important because it's not only individuals meet culture, but also even there's another context within where teams operate. By this, we mean the market, other stakeholders, and all of these have an impact on the performance of the teams. So if you want to start working with culture and you want to get like a point of reference of how the culture of the organization fosters like teamwork or allows the individual to thrive, you can look at teams. And most of the work done, it's even in meetings. And meetings, you do have meetings with others, and usually they're part of the team you work with. So by starting with teams, we saw it was like an excellent entry point, not only for us, but for the clients to discover what they're currently having that's affecting their performance, and most importantly, what can they do to have a better performance and thrive. So what are the key benefits of this change that we have? The first benefit is that group dynamics approach works well with large and small companies. And this is interesting because if you work with a larger company, you can work with up to like 50 different teams. But also in the market, especially in the Mexican market, like 90% of the different companies are more small or medium. So you can work with the executive team, the managers, or maybe a few other teams, and then you've covered the whole organization. And the second benefit is that clients see results very fast in a short period of time. As I'd mentioned before, just in a period of 2 months, you can really see not only the part of the assessment, but how they're having an improvement in their performance and achieving specific goals with key performance indicators, which make it important for the clients. Also, the third benefit is that projects can start with a smaller number of participants on a smaller budget and grow from there. So it's not that we're only focused on working with teams, but we see it as the starting point. And from there, we can grow to leadership, to coaching also the individuals into more constructive styles, or working with a whole culture of the organization. So now we would like to share with you a real case study, which we believe can be of interesting for you. And let's see if this resonates for you, seeing how this pivot that we had on our approach of working meets a client's requirement. So José Eusebio, can you share with us about this client?
Sure. Thank you very much, Marcela, and thank you very much to the attendees and to Human Synergistics for this opportunity to share this experience. I would like to ask you if you move your next slide, please. Thank you. I want to start by mentioning that the client that illustrates this case is a medium-sized company that was founded in 1995. And over the years, thanks to its experience and quality of service, it has achieved recognition in the pharmaceutical, cosmetic, and automotive industry in Mexico. Even we were talking about an organization that is successful in this field, there was a set of dynamics that hindered its performance and satisfaction. First of all, vertical and horizontal communication was quite an issue. And I must say that in general terms, in our culture, we don't have a healthy communication habits. We assume, we don't ask for clarification, We avoid topics, for example, etc. Also, silo practices between departments were the normal. And finally, there were beliefs, habits, and attitudes in dealing with conflict and difference that were notoriously defensive. So, these interaction practices were standing in the way of three important strategic goals, and it is for this reason that they call us. These goals were related to the following topics. First of all, they want to certify their divisions in the ISO 9000 quality standard. And I must say that they had failed in 2 previous attempts. Also, directors and managers wanted to drive change by learning to interact in more constructive ways to improve their results, performance, and satisfaction, and thereby lead by example. And finally, they want to lay the foundations of constructive culture that would allow the company to survive and prosper after the retirement of the founders. And given this requirement, it was necessary to create an intervention whose architecture was agile and effective, which would make directors and managers aware of the cost of their defensive interaction and how this is an obstacle for desertification, performance, synergy, satisfaction, results, and the retirement of the founders. Therefore, we decide that our initial solution would involve only the top management and their direct reports in order to help them to develop constructive styles when working together in a matter of weeks. And it is important. Our approach focus that produce quick wins in a matter of weeks. And that is observing improvements in a conflict management, communication between team members and their habits and attitude about conflict.
So after we designed this solution, we applied with the client the blue sector process. And this process is designed in a way that allows the client, first of all, to be aware of their constructive or defensive styles and how this is impacting their results. For this, after going through the process of awareness, there must be acceptance. Acceptance that they have more potential to get more effective results, and then this can lead them to the part of the action. So by this, we have a 4-step process that starts with the assessment. And for this specific client and with the approach of the group dynamics, we chose the project planning situation that Alison explained at the beginning and also the GSI. This is important for us because it helps us to understand the patterns of the group behavior and their effectiveness. Once we have this assessment, we lead the teams through our education process, which we train them on a constructive mindset. This methodology for building consensus and how to manage conflict helps them to have as teams the conversations that matter, which will at the end affect their performance. After the education and once they understand what a constructive mindset means, then comes the process of alignment. And by alignment, we mean that they can set goals with specific indicators and they can apply the concepts they learned previously during the education stage. Also, For especially the Mexican and the Latin American market, we have discovered that a fourth phase is key, and we need to accompany the client to actually apply the methodologies and the tools they've received previously. Otherwise, they will just leave them and they will be lagged, absorbed by the daily operations and even the emergencies, or a lot of things are urgent, so they will stop using them. By having this fourth phase, we accompany them on the daily basis for them to apply. And also, if they have a roadblock or an obstacle, instead of avoiding the mission of using the methodology and the tools, we will show them how they can apply them in different situations. And through this process, we are able to have the client obtain quick wins, which are very important and relevant in order for them to keep looking for and applying and committing themselves towards the constructive styles. So, José Eusebio, can you share about the discoveries and insights after the assessment?
Sure. In the assessment phase, we implement the business simulation that interactively stimulates the teams to work together and obtain an evaluation of it. In plain terms, the simulations allows participants to be encouraged to work together to solve a business problem, to quantify whether there was synergy or not, seeking to answer the following question. Did the team as a whole produce a better solution than its individual members? If the answer is yes, that is, no individual produced a better solution, then there was synergy. Otherwise, as was the case, the group dynamics did not work with synergy, and you can observe the table. The numbers in the table illustrate the number of individuals that produce a better solution that the group produced. I must mention that the subjective perception of the participants was that its effectiveness had been good, but the results of the simulation made them aware of their performance reality. It was so interesting because during the exercise, they really believed that the interaction was so effective. But after that, they realized that the results after the simulation was a check reality about their real performance. And immediately after the simulation, we implement the GSI, and the reflections after the results of our participants were: number one, they recognize that the results of their GSI are a reflection of their interaction in the meetings or in the business processes, and this impacts individual, group, and organizational performance and satisfaction. Also, they recognize habits and attitudes strongly related to their interpersonal skills, hinder communications, interaction, and consensus. And finally, they realize this gets in the way of their business goals and initiatives and work to improvement. Marcela, would you like to add something about these discoveries and insights?
Yes, José Eusebio, what I would like to do is emphasize and highlight the power of using both tools at the same time. First, by using the project planning situation, it gives them like a common denominator or something that they can talk and based on. And as you can see here at the beginning, when we were selling the project to the executive team, they said, okay, we definitely need it for the rest of the organization because we, as the executive team, are doing great. Others are the ones who need this kind of project. However, as you can see by the result that appears around inside the red circle, the number of individuals out of 7 from the executive team that had a better result by themselves rather than the one they obtained as a team was 5 out of 7. By realizing this, then after this exercise, they said, okay, maybe we also need to work on our constructive styles. On the other hand, it's interesting how in group 5, you can see that only 2 participants out of 7 had a better result. However, you can see also that they're more defensive as they reflected on the results of the GSI. So by using both, it becomes much more powerful for the teams to understand where they are. The GSI visually maps the person's experience of the team process, and also by using the circumplex, it provides a common language. And this common language will be the foundation that will be used also with the other parts of the process when we work with leadership and culture of the organization. And by this, it also allows them to find solutions and talk about what happened without allocating shame or blame, but also as a team. Thank you, José Eusebio. So we can now talk about the outcomes.
I was mute. Through our deployment of the solution and disciplined engagement of the teams, got the following quick wins. First of all, they obtained the certification in ISO 9000 standard. In second hand, the CEO expressed that accountability in teams has been strengthened by the constructive styles. In third place, the participants agree that being constructive when everything is going well is easy. The growth challenge has been to maintain their constructive styles developed in the project in the time of crisis. And they have listed examples that show that this has been the case. And finally, senior management and the next level of managers have agreed to move to the next stage of development by taking a program that uses lifestyles inventory and leadership impact, other diagnostic tools from human synergistics. And our conclusions after a journey like the one shown are the following. Number one, we are able to deliver quick wins for the client in a shorter period of time. And I think this is a critical topic. Number two, the clients soon understand that impact and benefits of constructive interaction within the organization. Also, they become familiar with the blue sector of circumplex. And finally, we gain trust to continue the journey with the client by working on the other areas or aspects of the organization. I mean, individual through lifestyles inventory, or leadership through the leadership impact, or culture through the OCI and OEI. You are mute.
So what are the key takeaways from this journey that we have shared with you? First is that group dynamics is an excellent possibility to start working with a client. And it can be an internal client if you are part of like an internal consultant of OD or head of HR, or if you are a consulting, or even if you're a client and you want to start a process within your organization, but you don't know exactly where to start or how long would it take, then you can start with group dynamics. Also, that you can achieve significant goals that can lead the way into working with culture and leadership. So by achieving these quick wins, goal related to the strategic goals of the organization, it's just like the entry point. And also, finally, the time and cost effective alternative to improve performance. For those organizations that right now have limited time or a limited budget, this is a cost-effective, attractive solution where they can start, and by improving their performance, then they can grow the project within their organization. And that's what we wanted to share with you. And now back to you, Allison, to have some questions and answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcela and Jose. It's wonderful to hear not only the changes that you've made with your process, but then to hear this incredible journey that your client has experienced and the outcomes that they have achieved by developing this awareness and focus around that blue sector of the circumplex. So appreciate you sharing that. And we do have some questions coming in. So let me kick it off with, is there something unique to the project planning situation that you select this simulation for leadership teams?
Okay, I would like to answer that question. I think that is an excellent question. And the reason why we chose the project planning situation from the business simulation series, it's because we see that it's common to any kind of organization. It doesn't matter the size of the company or the industry the company is in. If you must be part of project planning, interacting with others. So by using this, it's something they can relate to, and especially instead of versus using another like a survival series in the Antarctica or at the snow situation, then they can relate on how they're interacting within their day-to-day basis. And also another good thing is it's available in Spanish, in English, and other languages, I believe.
Absolutely. And just to piggyback on your mention of the survival simulations, not that those can't be used, but that it's sometimes harder for groups to understand that connection between surviving in the wilderness and how this applies back to the day-to-day. So absolutely agree, and so glad we have this in Spanish for you all to use with your groups. Another question that came in, we didn't really get into the details around it, but would you mind sharing more about the three clusters or dimensions of the GSI around the blue, red, and green?
Yes, thank you. So about the different clusters, for example, the green, it's related more towards the passive defensive styles. So imagine that within a team, someone it remains silent and decides not to take action by waiting the leader to say what to do, or they don't even want to commit and they become more dependent on what others can say, or some of them can even for the fear of losing approval of others, even though they don't support the idea someone is proposing, they will accept, even though they know they could have a better solution. So the green represents more the passive defensive, and many times that can be in detriment of the performance of the team. On the other hand, the red cluster, which is the aggressive defensive, it's more about having control, or imposing my point of view or even my interests rather than the ones of the team. And that can be less effective, and they could have a better solution if they included others instead of being trying to be in control or having things perfectly focusing on what can go wrong or what is wrong instead of excellence. In contrast, the blue sector or the blue cluster related to the constructive styles talks more about a balance between the person and the task, and also between the interests of the group and the ones that I have as an individual. And having this balance becomes very effective for the results and for the performance and even for the synergy that exists within the team, the group dynamics.
Beautiful explanation of the circumplex. Thanks for walking through those styles. So to relate back to what they were sharing in a previous slide, is that the groups had a mixture of all three styles playing out, but there was more emphasis around those green or red, the passive defensive and aggressive defensive, that were holding them back from getting more of those constructive styles that will help them reach that synergy and more effective results. So over time, they moved to more of those constructive styles, but it gave them that language. Jose, please.
Yeah, and it was interesting because even though they have styles related with the blue sector, the green and the red emerge easily when the conflict and the difference emerge also. And they have these long meetings, long discussions, and low quality of the solution that they produce, because in the green cluster behaviors, they accept the solution produced with this attitude. Okay, it's okay, but I don't like it, but who's matter, you know? And it's too easy to observe in the interaction between the members.
Absolutely. That's great. Thank you. And another question that's come in is, what objective measures did you use to see they were getting better performance?
Okay, thank you. And that's a very important question, because for us, it's not only for the results they get in the GSI or the project planning, but what we do is we work with the client on specific goals they want to achieve and key performance indicators. An example is, for them, it was very important to obtain this ISO 9001 standard certification. So after implementing our methodology, they were able to achieve that certification, which allows them to have clients of a certain sector that otherwise wouldn't buy from them because they don't have that standard certification. Also, with other clients, we ask them, what goals are you interested in achieving? It can be even a financial profit goals, or if they want to have more sales, or if they want to lower the personal rotation, or if they want to have better manufacturing or less loss in their production. So we define those objective goals they want to achieve, and it's through the communication and their talking in meetings, and even the attitude they have towards collaborating with others instead of just working in silos, that allows them to do that.
Conversions that matter, right?
Yes, the conversations that matter.
Can you mention any examples of companies that went successfully to this process? I know because of confidentiality, we have to be careful, but also if you can share if you've used this in an academic setting with any universities.
We have been starting starting to offer this even to universities in Mexico. We're in the process of negotiating and the implementation. And even with universities, it for their own faculty has been very important because they even have to get together in agreement that they do have clients. And they even have clients as students, clients, the parents of the different students that are paying for the tuition, and also the companies that are receiving those students after they graduate. So it's a shift in their mindset and identifying themselves as a, a group that has different patterns and dynamics and in their daily interaction, and that they need to reach consensus and agreements on what they need to work on their daily basis. So we've started to develop a project with these universities, and we will be happy to share once we can.
Fantastic. Thank you. Another interesting question that's come in is, how do you manage the change? That is, that people understand the importance of collaborating in the culture change and then doing it and changing their behaviors.
Thanks, Allison. I think that's a very important question. And that's why in the Blue Sector process, we include education. What we've seen is that first, doing the assessment, it's like taking a picture. Or even when you are sick, before you go like to the doctor, you get your like all the different like chemistry and blood examinations done in order to get something before previous you go to the doctor. So what in our experience and in our process, the component that brings the willingness to grow, the willingness to participate, and helps them to have an attitude of realizing that, okay, we have more potential and we can be more effective. It's the education component, where we talk about mindset, and we see that behaviors and impacts are like the consequence of the beliefs and attitudes, or even the habits they have. So by having the participants go through the education process, it makes it easier for us not to change them, because it's not something we do to them, but by having them want to become more effective.
Excellent, excellent. And this one ties in nicely as well. Have you found that communication is the most consistent variable to address across organizations? What suggestions do you provide to clients to improve communication?
Yes, definitely. We see that communication is like a common denominator working with clients, because we assume that we know how to communicate, and there's nothing as over communication. However, communicating in a constructive way, that's where the art comes. It's not that we're not communicating, but we need to learn how to communicate more effectively, and also understanding the relationship that exists between the form or the way of communicating in a constructive manner versus communicating in an aggressive or passive defensive way.
Specifically when the conflict emerges, that it's very common between two people or two departments when maybe in the goal setting process they understand that they understood the goal, but in the real life is that it not happened so often. I mean, it's necessary to understand a healthy way to communicate between the different members of the organization, because as I mentioned before, in our Mexican culture, we don't have healthy habits to communicate between us.
Absolutely, the appropriate amount of communication, the involvement, it's vertical, horizontal to some of the issues that this organization was dealing
Right.
with. So yes, absolutely agree there. Just a couple more questions while we have a few more minutes. What are the common learnings that leaders share after going through the project planning situation and the GSI?
Well, I think that one of the most important is that they realize the huge impact and responsibility as leaders that they have in the culture and shaping the culture of the organization. One of the things that we take our clients to focus, it's not only achieving results, but also high levels of satisfaction. So, and many times we see that they have the intention or the belief that they're being constructive, but they are more like towards the red, the aggressive. And because they're so focused, oriented towards the achieving the goal, a lot of times they don't see how they're achieving their or like the level of satisfaction. And once they become aware of that, then the natural question is, okay, how can we become more constructive? And it's by having that visually map that they have with the circumplex, with the GSI, is that they understand where they are and they want to do better. So it's not only helpful for them as a lead, as an executive team, but also then we move towards the leadership part and showing them how they can be more constructive.
How has the company developed in the time since then? Have they survived the change of the origin well?
Yes, I think that's this is very appropriate to share with you that they were performing very well financially without because all of the years of experience they had. And due to the war, some of the prices of the things they need to produce have gone up, and they've lost even some of the projects they had. So by having this gone through this program, it has allowed them to understand, okay, now what can we do to achieve our goals, even though we're going through uncertain times, even though the war has impacted. And what has been wonderful about this is that they have the commitment not only of the leadership team, but of the management level and their direct reports. And everyone within the organization understands that they're all part of the same team, the same company, and they're willing to collaborate with ideas. And they found several creative ways on how to go and look for more projects and also have better indicators, performance indicators of the projects that they already have. So having this shift in the mindset towards the constructive styles have allowed them to not only survive, but thrive during this uncertain times.
That's fantastic. I've got one more closing question that I think will be helpful for the group to understand is, it seems interesting that the less defensive group was the one with more individuals better than the group. Could you share what you learned there?
Yes, so it's interesting for them to understand, and I think that José Eusebio can add a lot about what synergy means within the teams, José Eusebio, and it's not only the quality, but the level of acceptance, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because the idea of the business simulation is to produce high quality solution, but also a high quality of acceptance. we discovered that many times inside of the groups, they accept very quick solution. I mean, they navigate in the green cluster. The first solution they accepted. So these kind of behaviors affect the not only the quality but the acceptance. Oh, it's okay for me. It's okay for me. It's so passive. So the idea is to promote this conversation that matter inside of the teams with the purpose of to explore out the box. To question the first solution in a good way, in a constructive way, not from the oppositional style. I mean, from curiosity, side. I mean, so in this case, a specific case, they have a couple of them produce a better solution individually, but this kind of passive behaviors was inside of the team. So I think that explained the results.
And that's what's so helpful is you as the facilitators to be able to observe the groups and provide some of these specific examples that are playing out in this situation. So thank you for bringing that to life even more so. So I want to, as we close things today, just thank you again, Marcela and Jose, for sharing this interesting and unique change that you've taken to your approach and how you're working with various organizations, and to share this amazing case study and the wonderful results that this organization has achieved. And thanks to all of you for joining us as well and taking the time and sending through such fantastic questions. We will be following up within the next few days with the recording as well as the PowerPoint for you to take another look at. And we just thank you all again for joining and hope you have a wonderful day. And thank you again, Marcela and Jose. It's always a pleasure, and we're excited to hear how the journey continues for this organization and many others. So thank you again, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Allison, and thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you, everyone.